right, welcome. Third and final session on this very special Compliance Tuesday for Action suppliers. I'm going to take you along the topic of declarations of conformity, and as with all the other Product B Compliance Tuesday sessions, this is not a legal advice as such. It's merely informative and training. The EU DoC in 30 minutes, I think will easily achieve that, and there will be time for discussion as well if needed. What is it? What is it not? Well, it is, first of all, it's a very official document. It's not just a piece of paper. It really has legal value. You could say it as a statement, financial statement with a signature. It really says something. We call it the CE Declaration, but officially it's the EU Declaration of Conformity, but I'm very happy to call it CE Declaration. It's more like the street lingo for that document. What it is one of the last, maybe the last step of a process that you call conformity assessment procedure. I'll come to that later. So it is something that is signed somewhere in the sequence of certain things. So it acknowledges a certain status. It confirms, namely, an assumption of compliance, and an assumption of compliance with all the applicable, with the essential requirements of all the applicable legislation for a product, given the anticipated, expected and unexpected use of the product. Well, that's a long sentence, but it's really true. So there's a lot of legislation in Europe, and each piece of legislation tries to achieve something. For example, this morning I had the example of the REACH legislation. We sometimes get questioned, is REACH applicable for this product? If you look at the essential requirements of the REACH legislation, what do they want to achieve? They want to protect us as human beings and the environment against negative influence of substances. So if that's the scope and what they want to achieve, the question is answered already. Everything goes under that legislation. If you look at toys, then there's different chapters in toys legislation, but one of the essential requirements of toys is to protect the kid and its surroundings against risk of playing with the toy. Yeah, I like the surroundings part of it. If you give them a small gun that shoots off arrows, then I am probably the surrounding. So it confirms an assumption of compliance. So it's a legal thing. Yes, we confirm it. If you don't sign anything and you place a product on the market, you're also confirmed it. So there are different ways of confirming things. The fact that you are selling products or handing out products means that you actually feel that there is an assumption of compliance as well. If you sign declarations of conformity and there are things wrong, but you cannot point out why things are wrong because there's no evidence behind it, there was not a conformity assessment procedure, or in reality, you put products on the market and you just print CE on the label, and there's never been budget for the company to really organize a proper conformity assessment procedure, then this part is considered fraud and forgery. So it is like a layer that is added to legislation to force management of companies involved in placing products on the market, importing, and making products available, selling or handing out, more aware of certain legislation. You can also see it, for example, we had the ROS related legislation. It was never mandated to be mandated under CE. We all made a mess out of it. We asked suppliers of quotations with and without ROS. So we were not going to achieve any goals with that. So what they did is we put the legislation under what I can call the CE regime, and suddenly management had to sign for the fact that the products meet the essential requirements of the ROS legislation. And then the liability for the management was changing, and suddenly it got more attention. So will there be a movement that all legislation is going to be under a CE regime? No, I don't think so. But it's definitely an instrument. CE is on the product, and the management signature is on the declaration of conformity. Otherwise, the management had to sign each product before it was placed on the market, and we don't do that. So the CE on the product actually is a replacement for the signature of the management, which is now on the declaration of conformity. Now you understand why it's fraud and forgery if something goes wrong. Who signs it? The manufacturer / brand owner, which you could say quasi-manufacturer, is the one who signs the declaration of conformity. And there, and I have examples for it, many things will or can go wrong. It only refers to those parts of legislation that are under CE regime. So REACH, which is not on the CE regime, does not belong on the first page of Declaration of Conformity. Yes, but we also take it into consideration. You put that one in the annex. Yeah, we also take into consideration the German LFGB. That is not a harmonized piece of legislation that needs to be on the first page of Declaration of Conformity. But I'm happy that you take it into account, because you are right. In order to confirm an assumption of compliance, the scope is much broader than just the products that have legislation that has CE. CE in general, and I wanted to point it out, and with it the DoC, are misused in ways that should not be misused. And companies that have a legal department, that legal department really, and I'm pretty strong on that, should have an opinion. CE is not a quality statement at all. You can have very safe coffee makers that make horrible coffee. It doesn't say anything about quality. It just says something about conformity. And if part of the conformity is quality, which it will probably move to when you have the terms about repairability or durability, then definitely it's a quality statement. The energy label as such, the statement that you make in the ePREL database, is on a similar level as signing a DoC. So it's also a conformity declaration. You can actually not have CE. If the result of a conformity assessment process is that you declare that there is an assumption of compliance, then it's you that declares. You cannot have it. There's also no CE certification or CE approved. Certification always involves a third party, an independent party, certified by. So if you sign CE, then it cannot be certified. It's even wrong in language. Yeah, but we have sometimes certain tests carried out by notified bodies. Yeah, that's mandatory in the assessment procedure, but that doesn't mean that they cover the whole scope. And last but not least, this is not a marketing document. And I can tell you, there's no consumer interested in it being a marketing document. It's a legal document. It's like fancying up your VAT declaration and saying to your end user, look how fancy my VAT declaration is for the products we imported. Stop wasting valuable resources of your company by doing these things. And I'm honestly surprised after all these years that you have legal departments that don't apparently have a strong opinion about that. Because there is an official format for this document. Yeah. Common mistakes. Well, number one, we made up a design by ourselves that doesn't match the official format. And as a consequence of that, it's just not a proper document. The second one is we are referring to directives and regulations, often nationals one as well, that don't have a CE regime at all. And or we make reference to non-harmonized standards and the national legislation standards that are under that. So a declaration of conformity only makes reference to directives and regulations that go under the CE regime, and then only to standards that are being published under those directives and regulations, which are called harmonized standards. And in Product P, we all take care of that. We follow that, and you can even see in the list which standards are harmonized. So what if there are already new standards out there that you can use to test, but they're not yet published, so not yet harmonized, and there are already there are still harmonized standards that are available? Yeah, then you make reference either to the harmonized standards or you don't make reference to non-harmonized standards, you put them in the annex, not in the first page. Yeah? The other thing what often goes wrong is that there's a mismatch between what's on the product and on the packaging and on the DoC. And this is quite interesting if you go into discussions with market surveillance authorities. And in Germany, you have the Bundesnetzagentur, that is the one that takes care of all the products with wireless communication. They often send out requests in the market, hey, there's an import of this product, it's a router, and can you send me the DoC of this product? Or they've taken a sample of the market and they say, hey, we took a sample of the product in March of this year, can you send the DoC of this year? And then maybe the product, maybe you are listed as an importer for the product, and the product has the brand name of Mr. Chen in Shanghai. Remember, they sampled it in March. You make a declaration of conformity on your letterhead, and you sign it and send it in, and you sign it dated today. Their response will be, oh, this is interesting. You sign it today. I actually was referring to the products the batch that you put on the market that belongs to the sample I took in March. So can I have the declaration of conformity with the date belongs to the import of that batch? And I see that you sign the declaration of conformity, but your logo is not as brand on the product. You are just as importer, and Mr. Chen in Shanghai is the manufacturer. I assume that you want to be the manufacturer. Then you write down, oh, no, this is the same product, and I've just signed it today. And what you mean, the manufacturer? I know that Mr. Chen is the manufacturer. But this is not how it works. You have official roles and responsibility in the supply chain. And if you mix this up, now you're walking into quicksand by yourself. Because basically what they should do is ask you for 2 technical files, one that supports the one that they took the sample in March, and one that supports the declaration of conformity that you signed in December 5 of 2023. I didn't intend to do so. No, but you created a quicksand yourself. This number 4 is really often happening. Number 5, not keeping up DoCs up to date when legislation is changing. Now we have a DoC, we signed it in 2016. Did you import it afterwards? Yeah, we imported last month. And which DoC you use? We never updated DoC. This is a declaration that says there is an assumption of conformity with the legislation that is applicable at the moment you place the product on the market. Place the product on the market is import. So the 2013 list, is that still relevant for the 2023 import? I don't know. That's what we know. So you need to make a new file. Well, you need to make a copy of the original file and update the evidence for the missing information because the old standards are no longer applicable, and generate a new DoC. But that's a lot of work. Well, it's a lot of work, but we make it very efficient and less work. Or some products are on the market and there must be a DoC available with the product or online as required. For example, machines, you need to have a DoC in part of the manual. In the new machine directive, probably can be a digital one. But telecom products, the DoC either need to be with the product or online available. And sometimes it happens that the product is in the market still. Somebody bought a company and shut down the website where all the DoCs were available. And then they call us, Casper, we got a request from Bundesnetzagentur or a letter, and they cannot find this DoC anymore because we shut down the server. And now what? Yeah, you need to have this information available for 10 years. And if you already sold the domain name, you have something to explain. Apparently and obviously not in control of the process. The number 7 mistake is only relevant when things really go out of hand, because in reality, the management should sign documents, but in reality, they cannot sign all the documents. So it's allowed to give somebody else in the company a so-called power of attorney and ensure also that he has the rights to sign. Same like you have the right to purchase goods for a certain value. And you need to keep track of certain things, and you need to have, as a company, ensure that this person also have proper legal insurance. Yeah? So this is a common mistake. Let me focus quickly on this supply chain roles and DoCs. So this is the example. We buy products from outside Europe. It could be UK, outside Europe. UK is outside Europe, and it's their brand, so not my brand. Their address is on the product, made by Mr. Chen in London. That is his address. They should sign the DoC. So the DoC is signed by the key entity that claims the role of manufacturer. Could be brand or could be the factory. Doesn't really matter. Consumer doesn't buy the promise of a factory, it buys the promise of a brand. And I'm importing it, then my address is also on that product. So it has two addresses, made by Mr. Chen in London, imported by Casper here in De Steeg in Holland. I have a copy of the DoC and I have a copy of the evidence that the manufacturer, Mr. Chen, had to ensure that this DoC is true. If this DoC is from 2013 and I'm importing today, I need to have an opinion of that. Yeah. Mr. Chen could also sell it directly to consumers. He doesn't need to have an importer, but he always must have an EU address. He could choose to use an authorized representative for that. And that authorized representative need to have a copy of information. It's the contact address for market surveillance authorities. Yeah. So there is always an EU address on the product? Yes. What if I am in the EU and I'm selling products without an EU address on the product? Then your address, the address on the invoice, is the address on the product. You become the EU address. And if the product didn't have any clear brands, then you become the brand. The name on the invoice becomes the brand. Simple. The legislator always wins. You know, there is no escape in this logic. What if I buy products from outside the EU with my brand? So I'm importer and brand owner. The importer role is no longer relevant in compliance as such, because it's superseded by being a brand owner / quasi manufacturer. So I can just write on it, made by Casper. It's irrelevant for market surveillance authorities that somebody in China made the product, because I'm having the full responsibility. I have the information. Surely for me as importer / brand owner, it's relevant to get information from Mr. Chen wherever he is. But I am signing the DoC as manufacturer. So a brand can be a manufacturer. Yeah, it's nothing to do with where there is really production. It has to do with responsibilities. Okay, now I'm buying from Mr. Chen in London and I'm importing it, but it has a private label brand on there for my customer. Now what? Okay. Either this private label is a license to me, which is complex, but I didn't mention it, but normally there would be two addresses. Mr. Chen in London is not relevant. Imported by Casper. Manufacturer could be Action, Zwaagdijk, Poep. They need to sign the DoC. So my added value as importer, because business to business, my private label customer will help me liable for sure, is to provide them with all the information and all the supporting documents so they can sign the DoC. Yeah. So what if it would be made for an Action label with my address? Yeah, it's possible. It's called licensing. I can get a license from Disney and import products and sell them as made by Casper, address by me, marked this brand Disney. I still need to sign a DoC. And Disney will have an opinion, but you can have a license for a brand. Licensing is available for many, many brands. But what you don't do is, Casper cannot sign as importer the DoC when the product brand is Action and the address is as manufacturer Action. You need to stay in line. You need to follow those rails. Yeah. So, and the business models are there. Supply chain roles are there. The licensing model is also there. And even You could choose to use an authorized representative whilst being in the EU. It's fine. You can authorized representative is just a contact address for market surveillance authorities. It's the same with repair. Samsung doesn't repair the Samsung televisions when I have a problem with them in Netherlands. There's just a repair service provider for that. So an authorized representative is a legally defined service provider for communication with market surveillance authorities. These are actually only 3 routes. So there's a brand, manufacturer, and there's an address, and they sign the DoC. Do we need to keep DoCs up to date? Well, I mentioned that already. You need to match the set of legislation and underlying harmonized standards that are applicable on that date. In Product IP, it's called the market release date. That is the date, that's the line we draw to our database where we select everything that is applicable. And the moment we do that, the file in Product IP already shows you what we call a reorder expiry date. So the moment we know something is going to be replaced with something new, that will be the reorder expiry date. And that means that a file could have a reorder expiry date of September 2025 today and January 2025 tomorrow. So it is based on what we know today. And based on that reorder expiry date, there is something new, what we already know. You can anticipate for that. It's not going to get away. The information is already there. Do you need to have a new declaration of conformity and a new set of documents? You at least need to look at what is going to change and determine if it really influences the information on the declaration of conformity. Substances of very high concern are not, as REACH are not on the declaration of conformity. And twice a year, there's an update and new substances of very high concerns are released. You need to look at the impact of that and log that you have looked at the impact of that, and then make a decision. Do I now have a new set of documents? Yes or no? So clone a file and keep track of the new set of documents if that is the case. If you're smart, just update your DoC when it has a DoC at the same time. So you know this DoC is valid for this set of documents from this day onwards. It's like VAT declarations, but there you do them per 3 months, per half year, or some per month. But this is actually not done per the rhythm of the 3 months, but by the rhythm of the reorder expiry date, the change in the legislative underlying information. Is it a lot of work? Yeah, I think you make it a lot of work because you want to make it a fancy, all singing and dancing document. But what you should do is use the cheap and cheerful proper DoC and Product IP that you generate with the click of a mouse in all the relevant languages required in the official format. Yeah, but our logo, it's not a fancy document. Are there alternatives to DoCs? Yes. Construction products, they have a similar one, but it's called Declaration of Performance. So you're not just declaring the fact that the product, that there is an assumption of compliance, you actually confirm that one of the main aspects, and you can pick one, actually is true. Could be mechanical strength, could be temperature insulation value, could be sound isolation value. So there's something, 1 or 2 more things specific of the product that you declare that they are true. And it's relevant because people that build houses and other constructions will rely on that certain aspects of construction products are actually true to meet specifications of the end product, which is a building. Yeah. Those that joined the session earlier this afternoon know now that there could also be a food contact materials declaration. You cannot merge that one with the DoC, it's a different one. It just refers to the food contact material aspect. What will be new? Packaging and packaging waste legislation is still under revision. It's written in there that there will be a declaration of conformity coming for packaging as well. That will mean that all the products, even those without CE, will have a kind of a format of a DoC because all those products have packaging. But if you have a product that already has CE, then you need to morph those two declarations of conformity into one, which is a hell of a job, which is why we have programmers that are looking into that. Batteries also will have CE. Batteries themselves are, of course, a consumer product, but the battery could also be fixed part or part of a product that you ship, and then you need to merge the battery CE information also with the DoC, because preferable you want only one declaration of conformity, except for food contact materials part, because it's a complete different framework. In product IP, you can make DoCs really effortlessly. You can also adapt the way you do that with different brands and roles that you have for those brands. So this is the license role, or even prepare a document for your private label customer, so you can share the file for free to them. They have the file in their account, and they can upload a signed DoC as well. And we do it in all the languages. Yeah. So is this work? Well, I think the hard work is to get your supplier motivated to upload what he should have already. Sometimes you have 3 different declarations of conformity, because there's one more, which is the mutual recognition declaration, because not all the legislation is harmonized. I'll give you an example of the food contact thermometer that you use for batteries. You will have a CE declaration, an EU declaration of conformity, the DoC, mentioning RoHS and EMC, or if it's a wireless product, RoHS and RED. That's for the electronic part, harmonized standards. The metal part actually is in contact with the meat on the barbecue. In this case, the barbecue meat doesn't know where it is, the metal doesn't know where it is. The risk for somebody in the Netherlands using this product, checking the temperature of a very nice steak, or in Germany or in France, this is not geographically relevant. And the moment that is not relevant, the European Union says, you can pick for the non-harmonized part any national legislation and declare it as relevant. But you need to do and act as if you sold the product at least one time in that country. So you can say, okay, I follow LFGB for the food contact part metal, the German legislation. You can do the French one. You can do the one from Malta. European Union says, I don't care. But you need to do as if you sold one product in Malta. That means you need to participate in the packaging recycling in Malta, the WEEE, electronics recycling in Malta. The manual need to be in Maltese. You have so you need to do as if you have sold one, really sold one. So you need to have, for sure, still a European food contact material declaration of conformity. So the format of that declaration is the same for harmonized and non-harmonized food contact material legislation. In this case, you mentioned LFGB, all the things that are necessary for that food contact material declaration. And you need a third declaration, which is called mutual recognition declaration, where you say, I have chosen Malta as my relevant base for the non-harmonized legislation, and I declare that I've sold one product in Malta, and that means the Maltese market surveillance authorities are relevant in this case, or Cyprus, or Portugal. It doesn't need to be the country where you are in. It doesn't need to be the country where you sell most. So with 3 declarations and one set of information, you can sell this product across the entire European market, but be aware that markets still have their language requirements. Yep. That's basically it. All you want to know about DoCs in 15 seconds, then it was 30 minutes. Great timing. Any questions in the Q&A? No questions at this moment. That's great. We have recorded all the sessions, and we'll make all available in the coming days for you to re-download and have a look. And obviously, if there are questions popping up, contact my colleague Saskia or me, or others in the team. Looking forward to see you online soon, probably then in 2024. Wish you a great day in the remaining of this day. And if I don't meet you for the holiday season, wish you great Christmas and Happy New Year already. Bye-bye.